Carl, at the bottom of the statement that was released by the McCain campaign, they say that he is resuming all his activities. He's going to debate this afternoon. Then he's going to be returning to Washington. Is that right, to continue to work on this thing?
That is the plan. He's been very busy this morning and left the Capitol a short while ago. And all the signals are that we'll all be wheels up, as they say, and headed for Oxford, Mississippi within the next few hours. Senator McCain made the point all along that there wasn't a deal for the bailout, and that until such time as there was significant progress, he thought that going to the debate might be a bad idea. He never actually said he wouldn't go. He offered to Barack Obama that the two of them would not go, to stay in Washington to work on this. This morning, John McCain had meetings with John Boehner, the House Republican leader, with Mitch McConnell, the Senate leader. He spoke on the phone with Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson. He spoke with the ranking Republican on the Senate Banking Committee, Judd Gregg, who was just on air a short time ago. And he spoke with a number of House Republicans about what their insistence is to improve the overall bailout proposals on the table right now and being worked through. They want a greater measure for insurance to act in this, as well as to have a greater emphasis on restructuring some of these bad loans. They want to have less of the actual buyback of bad debt, perhaps shrink the actual total dollar amount a little bit, and stagger the way in which the money to shore up the financial services industry would be made available should it be necessary as part of this ongoing bailout process. Now, the Republican leader of the House and Senate, the ranking Republican on the Senate Banking Committee, we're told that Senator McCain has taken this to all of the necessary factions of the GOP, and they are in agreement that the requests by the House Republicans for more taxpayer protections in this bill are, quote, not unreasonable. They are reasonable, say all the Republicans involved in this negotiation, and now it's about bringing Democrats on board with these greater taxpayer protections, and then Senator McCain can get on his plane and go to the debate, having done what he said he wanted to do 2 days ago. Bring the leaders together in Washington, at the White House and on Capitol Hill, and make this a better bailout proposal. Senator McCain has been arguing from the beginning that there's never been a deal, and that a 3-page document or a shorthand from the Senate Commerce Committee with a list of principles does not constitute a substantive proposal for what could amount to up to $1 trillion worth of federal bailout money. McCain will claim that his arrival in Washington brought all of this about, and now he'll be able to head off to Oxford, having done what he claims to have always done as a maverick in the Senate, as he likes to say. Bring Republicans who often don't get along together behind closed doors, get them all on the same page, and then bring Democrats from across the aisle in to meet with those Republicans and cut a deal.
Well, Carl, give us your assessment of the statement that Harry Reid made a little bit earlier during that news conference. He didn't use John McCain's name, but he said that things were proceeding along swimmingly, essentially, and they were, getting close, and then he said a certain person came to Washington and the wheels fell off. Is that an accurate description of what happened?
No. Listen, there wasn't a deal. You have to first accept a predicate that there was an arrangement agreed to by all of the necessary lawmakers and authorities that was essentially a piece of paper and a proposal that had been discussed and agreed to by one Senate committee. That's not the same as a deal. A deal in budget parlance and bailout parlance requires the White House, the regulators, the House and Senate Republicans and Democrats. And because House Republicans were not given an adequate seat at the table, Republicans had great misgivings about this. The American people has great misgivings about this. I mean, 60% and more in many polls say the public just doesn't like this. They think that it's way too big a bailout with not enough assurance that the devil is not in those details. So McCain's role in this was to bring about progress for a deal, which as of this hour has not yet existed. They're getting closer, they say, but yesterday, because there was a banking committee, a senior committee, a deal doesn't institute finality. That was McCain's point, and he'd been making it since Monday. And Harry Reid saying that we shouldn't inject presidential politics in this, and then immediately turn to John McCain, raises some questions. Everybody is playing politics. With less than 40 days before the election, of course this was going to be looked at through partisan prisms, but how about looking at it through taxpayer prisms, taxpayer glasses? All this discussion about we're worried about Wall Street, but more about Main Street. Taxpayers are included in both of those places, and Republicans in the House say they were not brought to the table adequately. And these aren't John McCain's ideas per se. He just brought all the people together so that these ideas could be articulated, and if Democrats Democrats buy into them, that will be part of the deal as yet uncut. John?
I'm reminded of the old phrase that men should not observe how laws or sausages are made. I mean, this is about as ugly as it gets in Washington, isn't it?
Lots and lots of sausage making going on, John.
Bill Salmon is with us as well, Carl. Bill, you had just posed the question as this news broke, as John was speaking to you, about how McCain, I don't know if this is the phrase you used, would kind of save face in saying he wouldn't go to the debate unless a deal was on the table. Your thoughts about the explanation here?
Well, first of all, I just want to say, I want to echo what Carl said. This sort of clumsy attempt by Harry Reid and the Democrats to say that a deal had been reached at 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and suddenly, to put it in Harry Reid's words, and then guess who came to town, and it completely fell apart. I mean, that is a patently false explanation of what happened, and it would seem to be an attempt to preemptively set up John McCain for blame when he did arrive in town, because there wasn't a deal. So it's hard for me to gauge what, if any, kind of arrangement exists at this moment. But again, I think the onus is on McCain to explain what has changed. And I know Carl said, and it's a good point, it's a good distinction, that McCain didn't explicitly said that unless the deal is signed by the president, I won't debate.
Yeah.
But still, he needs to do a good job of explaining what's changed, where he wasn't going to debate an hour ago and now he is going to debate.
Yeah, I mean, the impression definitely has been out there. Carl, go ahead.
Yeah, Ben, I think what the McCain campaign is already beginning to formulate, and we expect to hear a statement and see a bit of a definition from the McCain campaign about this, but that what he has accomplished is bringing all of the factions and parties together, and that now, as part of the latest proposal, there would be less bad loan buy-up outright and more restructuring of some of those bad loans, an insurance component to lessen the taxpayer burden as part of this process is undertaken. And in the proposal that was being discussed yesterday, first it was $100 billion, then they could request another $250 and then $350 billion, staggering the outlay or the availability of this money should it be necessary. One of the things that McCain can claim is that in addition to putting in those aforementioned taxpayer protections, by spreading out the way in which the money is available, it makes it harder for this money to be spent without increased congressional oversight, which is what everybody agreed last week when it was determined that something needed to be done. There had to be a lot of. You can't just hand over $700 billion to Hank Paulson, the Treasury Secretary, and let him do this unilaterally. There needs to be controls on it, and Senator McCain will say this day in which his involvement was evident as he did his little shuttle diplomacy from office to office on Capitol Hill has brought about that and put it into the list of things to do.
I just want to read to you guys a bit of breaking news as you're speaking there. One, that Barack Obama is now wheels up from D.C., we're told, on his way. Eventually he'll end up there for the debate. He's going to land in Memphis and then drive down. We're told he's in the air. Also, he has issued a statement saying, I've been on the phone all morning with Secretary Paulson, Speaker Pelosi, Majority Leader Reid, Chris Dodd over the last 24 hours. I've also had a few conversations with Republicans who are involved in the process. On to say, I think it's important that the markets seem to be staying relatively calm at this point. He's optimistic that something can get done.
Well,
Go ahead, Bill.
I was just going to say, in fairness, you have to give Obama his due here. He was the guy that said all along we should debate, and sure enough, it looks like we're going to debate. And the other thing is, there was some uncertainty this morning about how the markets were going to behave today, and I predicted earlier this morning that if the image of Barack Obama flying out of Washington as the stock market tanked again, if that was a split screen on our televisions, that wouldn't necessarily look good for Obama, but that's not what's happening. And so I think you have to give him his due, and I don't think he has been damaged too badly by the politics of whether to debate or not to debate.
All right, Bill Salmon and Carl Cameron, thank you both. And I guess if you can stick with us, please do. We're going to go take you to the White House now. Dana Perino, the presidential spokeswoman, is addressing this issue on the economy right now. We're going to hear from Barack Obama's campaign shortly.